Hey there, this is Max, and this is the Auth Handler challenge from the Spokane Cyber Cup Year 6. Now, I actually used this challenge a couple years ago, but I made a small twist to it. So, previous year, it had an entirely different bug. A couple years ago, it had some bad error handling with bad default values that allowed you to bypass some security features. But I fixed that this time, is the idea behind it at least. So this time there's a separate bug you have to find. So the prompt is trying to log in. Just use the user ID of the user. But please don't try to become an admin user. The admin user is loaded at slot 0, but cannot be accessed since there is an explicit check there. The way we can interact with this is using a tool called Netcat. Netcat is a Swiss Army knife of networking tools. And it's installed on most Linux systems. It's pretty easy to install. I have it on MacBook, which is what I run. And I think I just installed it with Brew. There's a lot of different ways to do that though. So I think the easiest way to start is just to do netcat here. So program 1 is we can create a user, and I'm going to do max, and it gives me a level I can choose from. So I'm going to say I'm a level 5 user. If you do try to do anything bigger than that, it won't work. It tells me that the user ID is 1, and this corresponds to the index in an array. Now if I want to log in, I can do view current user, and it already has me logged in as that user. Cool. I can do view all users, and it shows you that there's an admin user at level 10. So the first inkling is, why don't we just try to create a new user, and we'll do bad man and make level 10. And it'll say, can't do that, it's too high. That's fine. If you try to use a super admin feature, it goes, oh, sorry, you can't do that. If you try to create a user and then try to do that, it also won't let you do that. So by design, this looks pretty solid. We can't just specify an arbitrary permission level. We can't use the admin user. For instance, actually I'll show this in code. This will make more sense. So code is about 100 lines long, not too bad. And this main has these options we were looking at. Now we can see create user, login, print all users, and then the final one is allows you to get the flag. So when we call at the very beginning of the program, we call initialize users, and it is calling admin and give them permission level 10 here. And when we call create user, there's just a user list here, and this user list is not global, but it might as well be. Essentially global because the main is most of the program. Anyway, when we create a user, it just adds them to this list here. That's all it does. If we go to create user, we'll see that it takes the level as an integer. If the level is greater than 5, it exits. Once you try to log in, it has a get UID check, and this get UID check checks to see if it's equal to 0, and that's illegal because that's the root account. It doesn't want to do that. If it's also illegal, it returns false instead of this UID this time. So it returns a boolean if it fails, and it returns an integer if it succeeds. Cool. So now we know how this program works. The key aspect here is that the user information of how we try to log in is using the index. If we look at the login code, when it calls get UID, we're just getting an integer. And that integer is then checked to see if it's valid or not. If there's more than the length of users, it's invalid. And if it is the number 0, it's also invalid. So with that in mind, there should be no way to log in. However, there's a small trick here. In Python, negative indexing is actually considered valid. So for instance, if I have a list, let's say list of like 1, 2, 3, you would expect that list of 0 is just going to be, that helps see a little bit here. It's just going to be 1 there. If we try to go out of bounds, it gives us an error. And you expect that a negative index to do the same thing. But Python has some fancy slicing operations that allow you to go to the end of the list. So, for instance, -1 will also be 3. -1 will be the last item in the list. -2 is the second to last item, and -3 is the third to last item. Of course, -4 is out of bounds because there's nothing before that. So Python has some pretty cool features that allow it to do some pretty cool indexing. In the case of this program, because we're giving user direct control and we're banning them from using index 0, we can just use a different representation of that index 0. We can use a negative number, which is considered valid in this program. Cool, so now if we try to interact with it over netcat, we can just do login as user, -1, because the admin user is an index 0, and if there's a list that only has one element in it, well, index 0 is going to be the same as index 1 because index 0 is the end of the list because there's only one element. So at that point, if we do view user, we'll see that we're UID 0 and we're an admin. And if we do the super admin feature, then we get the flag. Clearly I need to change that flag. I wrote this a long time ago. That's okay. I will change that. So yeah, the crux of the bug is that there is a negative indexing issue that we can exploit here. Python has some cool features, but knowing those little tricks of a language in order to create interesting logic vulnerabilities is a lot of what I do. So I think this is a pretty fun challenge. I'm realizing I say that about most things. So hope you enjoyed. Good luck on the next one.